Hello. If you watched some of my other Raspberry Pi videos, then you are aware that for beginners, I recommend simple tools when it comes to writing Python programs on the Raspberry Pi Linux platform, particularly when using the system headless without a keyboard and monitor attached. For example, if I were to demo a simple LED blinking project with simple circuits such as this one, a single LED with a resistor, I would use SSH to connect to the Pi from my PC. Use Nano Editor to type up a simple Python program, then use a shell command to set appropriate permissions, and finally test run the program also in the shell. I am a firm believer that such approach allows beginners to fully embrace the command line and to learn how to use Linux through the command line interface. Nano Editor is sufficient for simple programs when you are just starting up. It offers basic editing features, has some syntax highlighting, and shows line numbers if configured correctly. However, your needs will change as your skills increase. Once you become comfortable with shell commands and are able to write simple programs in Python, you will benefit from software tools such as integrated development environments, commonly referred to as IDEs, which will make writing and debugging programs easier. They have many useful features and a graphical interface operated with a mouse. Most of them also offer at least syntax highlighting and a debugger. I recommend VS Code to beginners. It is a free cross-platform environment by Microsoft that supports a variety of programming languages, including Python. A particularly useful feature available with VS Code is remote development. This feature allows VS Code to run on a local PC, while the programs actually run and are debugged on another system remotely over SSH. This is a good route to take on a headless Raspberry Pi where you cannot run graphical software such as VS Code directly. Let me walk you now through the steps of getting VS Code working as I just described. Although I am using a Windows PC right now, the procedure is very similar on a macOS or any Linux PC. Install VS Code first if you do not have it already. It is free and you can find the download link through a basic web search. VS Code is highly modular through extensions. Search for SSH remote extension provided by Microsoft and install it. Once this extension is active, you will have a new green colored button in the lower left corner of the VS Code application. Use this new button to open a remote window dialog and connect to your Raspberry Pi that way. Provide your username and hostname in the same fashion as you would with the SSH command when used in the plain command prompt. Of course, your username and hostname will be different than mine. Provide your Raspberry Pi user password when prompted. VS Code will configure your Raspberry Pi automatically upon first connection. This may take a couple of minutes, so be patient. The connection is successful. I could create a new program from the welcome screen, but since I have the blink.py program on my Pi, I will use this one instead. What you need to remember is that while VS Code runs on the local system, you will actually create, edit, and save files remotely on your Raspberry Pi. Notice that the file browser dialog shows a Raspberry Pi path name by default, but you also have the ability to browse the local file system. The same applies when saving files. VS Code has the ability to save files locally or remotely, so don't get confused. You may get a security warning at this point. Obviously, I trust files on my own Raspberry Pi. If you try to save a new Python program or run an existing one in newly installed VS Code, it will prompt you to install another extension to properly support Python. Install the Python extension also provided by Microsoft. If for some reason the extension does not get installed at this point, you can search for it in Extensions and install it manually. You can close the extension tab after installation is complete, which may take a couple of minutes. A basic Python program can be executed through appropriate menu options or through keyboard shortcuts such as pressing the F5 key. Generally, you want to use the debug mode even if you just want to run the program as a whole without debugging in mind. The program is up and running. Debugging mode provides a toolbar with controls of the execution process. We can step through code one line at a time, use breakpoints, stop the program, etc. I will talk more about debugging techniques in VS Code in other videos. If you start your program in a non-debug mode, there is no clear pathway to stop a running program, as the toolbar with the stop button will not be available, but you can control the execution in the terminal window. For example, I will click the mouse anywhere inside the terminal and use Ctrl-C to terminate this running program. Since I still have your attention, let me talk briefly about general features of Visual Studio Code. The default VS Code layout is divided into a number of sub-windows. The main area is the editor. This is where you write or edit your programs. If properly configured, VS Code Editor supports Python syntax highlighting and IntelliSense. IntelliSense is an extremely useful feature which speeds up the programming process by providing hints as to available keywords. For example, when I type the name of my LED object and follow that with the dot character, IntelliSense provides me with a convenient list of all attributes and methods associated with GPIO0 LED object. I can select desired item from the list using the mouse, or start typing to narrow down the list and use Tab to autocomplete it. VS Code has a fully functional terminal window while connected remotely to Raspberry Pi. Any command line output produced by your program will show up there. Of course, you can use any shell commands here to navigate file system, create directories, set permissions, etc. while your program is not running. If you have not used VS Code before, it may seem a bit overwhelming, but give it time and you will appreciate the features as you learn them. Once you have VS Code running, I recommend that you set up your environment for passwordless login from your PC to your Raspberry Pi. Let me walk you through this process right now. Open the command prompt on your system, or terminal if you are on a Mac, and issue the following command. This will create a public-private key pair on your PC, which can be used to authenticate yourself when logging into remote systems. You can password protect your private key if you like. For this passwordless process to work, you need to transfer your public key to the remote system. Use the scp command to do that. As a final step, log into your Raspberry Pi using SSH and append the public key to your Pi's configuration. You can delete the public key afterwards from your Pi. From now on, whenever connecting to your Raspberry Pi using SSH from your PC, including using VS Code, you will no longer be prompted for a password, which will simplify the connection process. Other than configuring key-based authentication, I also suggest that you pre-configure VS Code with your Raspberry Pi login name and password, simplifying the connection process further. Edit the default configuration file by providing entries in 3 lines, customizing each line with your specific information. Surround your host entry using double quotes if yours contains spaces. With this configuration in place, Coupled with the passwordless authentication, initial connection to my Pi is now accomplished with a couple of mouse clicks. VS Code will connect automatically next time without any action on my part. That's it for this video. Please hit thumbs up if you liked it. Also, subscribe to my channel so I can let you know when I publish my next video. Thanks for watching.